I'm Azaria Tagaya. You're watching Nightline. Here are the top stories. DOE Director General and Deputy arrested over alleged e-waste corruption. Subsidised cooking oil, new MACC system to streamline purchases from June 1st. Good morning. Building on recent high-profile arrests, the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC, has detained the Director General and Deputy of the Department of Environment to assist investigations into a case linked to electronic waste. Following the arrest, the Natural Resources and Environmental Sustainability Ministry pledged to fully assist in the investigations with the MACC in conducting a transparent and thorough investigation. In a statement on Thursday, its Minister, Datuk Seri Arthur Joseph Kurup, said his ministry would not tolerate any form of abuse of power, mismanagement or corrupt practices involving any staff under its purview, adding that integrity remains the core principle in safeguarding the country's environmental sustainability. MACC Chief Commissioner Tan Sri Azam Baki, in confirming the arrest, revealed that insiders of the top DOE officers sabotaged an MACC raid linked to the case. Sources said the two senior officials were taken into custody at around 6:30 p.m. after giving their statements at the MACC headquarters in Putrajaya. The probe is looking into claims of abuse of power and bribery in the management of electronic waste, believed to have taken place over several years.
Hari ini, dua orang pegawai kanan, satu ketua pengarah, satu timbalan ketua pengarah telah ditangkap. Okey. Kerana mereka menerima rasuah. Dan semalam, orang-orang mereka telah sabotaj satu serbuan yang kita buat.
Azam said the investigation is being conducted professionally, regardless of the position or rank of those involved. The case is being investigated under the MACC Act. Meanwhile, in Negeri Sembilan, a former board member of an e-waste disposal company has been charged at the Sessions Court in Seremban over alleged bribery. Chinese national Jiang Fanjun pleaded not guilty to a charge of offering a 50,000 ringgit bribe to an officer from the Department of Environment. He's accused of conspiring with a local man to hand over the cash as an inducement for the officer to refrain from taking legal action over suspected offences under the Environmental Quality Act on February 12 last year at an industrial area in Nilai. The court granted bail of 20,000 ringgit and ordered the accused to report monthly to the Negeri Sembilan MACC office. Jiang was also ordered to surrender his passport and refrain from interfering with prosecution witnesses. The case under the MACC Act has been fixed for mention on March 6th. Now on to the Armed Forces procurement scandal. Another senior officer is expected to be hauled to court over corruption charges. It was learnt that he is expected to be charged in the Kuala Lumpur Special Corruption Court on Friday. Earlier on Thursday, a former Military Intelligence Director General has been charged at the Sessions Court on 3 counts of receiving bribes linked to the scandal, allegedly committed 2 years ago. Datuk Muhammad Razali alias pleaded not guilty to all charges, which are said to have taken place while he was holding the post. According to the first charge, the 60-year-old is accused of accepting $20,000, equivalent to about 80,000 ringgit, from the director of a company named Intelligence PC Centre. The money was allegedly an inducement to approve payments for maintenance and support services for the Cyber Defence Operations Centre. The charge was framed under Section 16, Subsection A, Subsection B of the MACC Act. The second charge involves payment by the same individual for return flight tickets between Kuala Lumpur and Malaga, Spain, for the accuser's wife. The third charge also relates to the purchase of return flight tickets for his wife between Kuala Lumpur and Estonia. For the second and third charges, the accused is charged under Section 165 of the Penal Code. The court granted bail of 50,000 ringgit with one surety and ordered the accused to surrender his passport as an additional condition. The case has been fixed for mention on March 16th. Now, public confidence in the nation's defence institutions cannot be built on slogans alone. Instead, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said trust must be reinforced through firm and consistent professionalism, accountability and integrity at every level of administration and operations. Anwar said he stressed the matter during a courtesy call by the newly appointed Army Chief General Dato Azhan Mat Othman at his office on Thursday. Discussions also touched on the strategic role of the Malaysian Army as a key pillar of national defence and a source of assurance for the people. Anwar stressed that any breach of trust, including abuse of power and corruption, that could tarnish the image of defence institutions will not be tolerated. He said this demands transparency, honesty and the courage to address weaknesses in order to safeguard the honour of the Malaysian Armed Forces. The Prime Minister added that the government will continue to support the Army in remaining a credible, professional and respected force. Starting June 1st, a new MACC system equipped with QR codes will be used for purchasing subsidised packet cooking oil. The system will not only track each purchase systematically, but also curb abuse, particularly by foreigners whose access will be fully banned beginning March. Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Minister Dato' Armizan Muhammad Ali told the Dewan Rakyat that the MACC verification will form part of the purchase process under the Cooking Oil Price Stabilisation System or ECOS. The system mirrors the method successfully used for the SARA and Budi Madani RON 95 fuel subsidies.
Kad pengenalan baru, dan dalam kad pengenalan baru tu akan ada QR code. Jadi itu juga salah satu option kemudian kalau sekarang ini aplikasi mobile code menggunakan QR code dengan hanya mengimbas kad pengenalan yang mempunyai kod QR itu juga nanti membolehkan pembelian minyak masak paket diguna pakai, dimanfaatkan oleh masyarakat kita.
ECOS also registers all parties along the supply chain, from refineries and packaging companies to wholesalers and retailers, ensuring full traceability of subsidised cooking oil. In a related move, Armizan explained that foreigners will be barred from purchasing subsidised packet cooking oil under the supply control regulations beginning March 1st.
Jadi dengan adanya larangan ini kita akan dapat memastikan subsidi itu akan dimanfaatkan oleh warga negara dan tidak dibuka ruang itu kepada warga asing.
The restriction will be enforced through the ECOS digital platform, which records every purchase and sale systematically. For now, the government has no plans to set additional quotas under ECOS, with household limits remaining at 3 packets per member. Consumer groups, meanwhile, said tightening controls on subsidised packet cooking oil shows commitment to safeguarding the integrity of subsidies meant for Malaysian consumers.
The stronger monitoring through the ECOS system can help address long-standing enforcement gaps across the supply chain.
With clear standard operating procedures, proper training and strong public communication, the measures can be carried out smoothly and consistently without burdening retailers or consumers. The Cabinet will meet on Friday to determine the policy direction regarding the proposal to limit the tenure of the Prime Minister. If approved at the policy level, the proposal would then be brought to all members of Parliament for further deliberation. Law Minister Datuk Sri Azalina Othman Syed said the move is part of the government's commitment to institutional reform, emphasising accountability and transparency in governance.
Tapi kesimpulan saya kata bukan kerana tidak adanya individu yang berkemampuan, tetapi lebih kepada aspek membawa mungkin kepada saluran kepimpinan yang baru dan diikuti dengan supaya tidak ada salah guna kuasa oleh mana-mana pihak. Ini ditawarkan oleh Kerajaan Perpaduan Madani lah.
The minister spoke after concluding a town hall session on the Prime Minister's term limit in Putrajaya. She added that amending the constitution to impose a term limit would require the support of 2/3 of Parliament. Based on a survey by the Legal Affairs Division, nearly 90% of more than 3,700 respondents supported setting a tenure limit for the Prime Minister through a constitutional amendment. The closure of pig farms in Kuala Langat and surrounding areas is expected to be carried out as soon as possible this year. Selangor Menteri Besar Datuk Sri Amiruddin Syari said the state government is currently conducting a detailed study on pork supply needs in Selangor. Amiruddin said any decision will take into account the impact on supply and market prices to avoid placing an additional burden on consumers.
Tahu kesannya itu saja ialah mana alternative sources. Alternative sources itu import Jadi untuk orang kita naik harga melambung dalam pada masa itu memang sekarang ini 70% imported from other states.
On Monday, Amiruddin announced that the state government had decided to temporarily postpone and cancel any development proposals involving pig farms in Bukit Tagar, Hulu Selangor. The government has reaffirmed its commitment to ensuring the Bumiputera economic empowerment agenda remains relevant, inclusive and aligned with future economic needs. Investment, Trade and Industry Minister Datuk Sri Johari Abdul Ghani said the focus is increasingly important amid a more challenging global trade and investment environment. Johari said the matter was discussed during the Bumiputera Economic Council meeting chaired by Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim on Wednesday. Discussions centred on expanding Bumiputera participation in high-value sectors, boosting the competitiveness of local enterprises and widening access to financing, markets and supply chain opportunities. The meeting is a key platform to coordinate policies, strengthen implementation and assess the effectiveness of Bumiputera economic development initiatives at the national level. Domestic consumer spending is expected to remain stable this year, according to research house BMI, a unit of Fitch Solutions. Low inflation and stable interest rates are likely to continue supporting household demand. Inflation-adjusted household spending is forecast to grow by 4.1% this year, slightly slower than the 4.4% recorded in 2025. The outlook reflects a low inflation environment and a stable labour market. BMI also noted that unchanged overnight policy rate OPR will help keep borrowing and loan repayments manageable for households.
Trade hits 3 trillion ringgit and GDP exceeds forecasts. What does this mean for growth? How will fiscal and subsidy reforms support this momentum? Which spending matters most? Zahir Kelvin Ong Abdullah speaks with MIER Executive Director Tan Sri Sulaiman Mahbub only on Money Matters this Saturday at 5 p.m. on TV3 and stream on Tonton.
Singapore's central bank has raised its inflation forecast for 2026 while keeping monetary policy unchanged for a third consecutive review. The Monetary Authority of Singapore, MAS, expects both core and headline inflation to come in between 1 and 2%, up from its earlier projection of 0.5 to 1.5%. MAS said the decision reflects higher unit labour costs in the services sector, though price pressures could ease over time with productivity improvements. The central bank also cautioned that geopolitical supply shocks could push up imported costs. Despite these risks, MAS expects Singapore's economy to remain resilient in 2026, with underlying price pressures gradually returning to their long-term trend. The Philippines reported below expectations economic growth of just 4.4% on Thursday, its lowest non-pandemic rate in nearly 15 years, with a corruption scandal and climate-driven weather blamed. The gross domestic product GDP came in well below June's projection of 5.5 to 6.5%, which had already been downgraded to account for U.S. tariffs and global uncertainties. The full-year figure was accompanied by fourth-quarter growth that fell sharply to 3.0% from 5.3% a year earlier, marking the second consecutive quarter in which growth targets were missed. Economic Planning Secretary Arsenio Balesacan said the severity of the slowdown was unexpected, but stressed that the government remains committed to reversing the trend this year through a range of reforms designed to restore public confidence. Raging fires, thick plumes of smoke, and firemen seek additional support. More home news after this breather.
Memperkenalkan istri baru saya, Datin Ramona.
Kalau kau rasa aku ni kau, pergi keluar.
Pergi nampak kampung.
OMG.
Seronoknya main dengan Datuk Kamal. Pukulan dia memang hebat.
Luna nak ikutlah bang, best ni bang.
Di Cerekerama TV3 Sabtu ini 10 malam dan stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
Wanita hari ini.
Makan bersama, melancong bersama tapi tetap rasa sunyi.
Ramai kawan tapi sunyi, kita bincangkan isnin.
Menu kemasan hidangan tradisional yang ringkas.
Kaya dengan rasa, boleh bertambah selera.
Sekolah awal usia beri banyak manfaat.
Tapi kena seimbang antara belajar dan juga bermain.
Serangan jantung dalam kalangan wanita.
Jangan abaikan tanda-tanda awal.
Syirah susah juga kalau terlalu tak suit dengan pasangan ni kan?
Jangan sampai sayang bertukar racun.
Semuanya di Wanita Hari Ini TV3.
Dan stream sekarang ditonton.
Wanita Hari Ini.
Unlocking the future of business.
From industry evolutions to policy changes, we go beyond the headline.
Deep insights, sharp analysis.
Understanding the forces driving tomorrow's economy.
Key financial insights that drive decisions.
This is Money Matters, every Saturday, 5 p.m.
Only on TV3 and stream now on Tonton.
Trend gaya hidup sederhana, tekanan ekonomi dorong gaya hidup slow living.
Depresi pembunuh senyap, senyum di wajah, depresi di jiwa.
Keselamatan dan kesihatan industri, cakna keselamatan kerja, lindungi nyawa, lindungi diri.
5 pelanggan di restoran, semua dah self-service. Tapi kenapa perlu cas perkhidmatan?
Hutang si mati, presiden dan tanggungjawab waris.
Sehingga Jumaat jam 10 pagi.
Ditonton dan TV3.
Welcome back. Kuala Lumpur police have busted a drug syndicate that used homestays as temporary storage sites before distributing the drugs to the local market. 261 kilograms of shabu worth 13 million ringgit was seized in the operation in Segambut last Tuesday. 4 local men aged between 23 and 32 were arrested. To avoid detection, the syndicate rented homestays for short periods of 4 days at 200 ringgit a day. In the raid, 2 vehicles and more than 100,000 ringgit in cash were also seized. The suspects have been remanded for 7 days from Thursday to assist investigations under the Dangerous Drugs Act. Terengganu police are stepping up efforts to track a suspect in a pre-dawn robbery in Dungun in which a senior citizen suffered severe bleeding after being stabbed 3 times on Thursday. 63-year-old Roslan Side and his wife were asleep when the suspect broke into their house at Kampung Pinang Merah at about 3:30 a.m. The suspect, who fled through the kitchen door, pointed a knife at the victim, causing the victim to be injured in the back of the body. Roslan is now receiving treatment at the Sultanah Nur Zahira Hospital in Kuala Terengganu. The case is being classified as voluntarily causing hurt while committing or attempting to commit robbery. No injuries were reported in a fire which gutted a row of shop lots in Petaling Jaya, Selangor on Thursday. The fire, which broke out in Taman Medan at around noon, involved a row of food outlets and grocery shops with an estimated 80% of the structure damaged. The Fire and Rescue Department received an emergency call at 12:29 p.m. Upon receiving the distress call at 12:29 p.m, firefighting teams from the Penchala, Petaling Jaya, Puchong and Subang Jaya stations were dispatched to the scene. Firefighters managed to bring the blaze under control. The cause of the fire and the total extent of losses are still being investigated. The Port Klang area in Selangor was rocked by explosions following a fire that broke out at 2 paint factories and 2 warehouses on Thursday. The Selangor Fire and Rescue Department said emergency calls were received at 3 p.m. Thick plumes of smoke were visible from several kilometers away. Firefighters from Port Klang were immediately dispatched with reinforcements from North Klang, South Klang, Andalas and Shah Alam. Upon arrival, the fire had already destroyed an estimated 60% of the factory area. The fire was brought under control after more than 5 hours. No injuries have been reported. The cause of the fire remains under investigation. Now, a series of fires which have swept across several districts in Johor over the past week has prompted the State Fire and Rescue Department to urge the public not to engage in open burning. The department's operations recorded extensive damage across multiple locations. In Pengerang, about 80% of the nearly 100-hectare peat fire has been successfully extinguished. Large-scale fire zones have been fully brought under control. In its 7th day, firefighting efforts remain focused on water bombing operations with full deployment of fire crews and support from related agencies. The cause of the peat fire is still under investigation. Running a high-tech farm without leaving his bed. The details when Nightline returns.
Unlocking the future of business.
From industry evolutions to policy changes, we go beyond the headline.
Deep insights, sharp analysis.
Understanding the forces driving tomorrow's economy.
Key financial insights that drive decisions.
This is Money Matters, every Saturday, 5 p.m.
Only on TV3 and stream now on Tonton.
Dia very intense. Lepas tu saya duk menangis je lah. Memang nampak mata bengkak ni. Ya Allah, tak boleh nak tahan lah.
Sebagai orang filem, saya rasa cukup komplit. Dan apa yang membuatkan dia betul-betul meremukkan hati kita ialah kita tahu ini cerita betul.
Ya Allah, dia bermain dengan jiwa gila-gila punya.
Saksikan filem The Voice of Fin Rajab di program yang berhampiran dengan anda.
Dengan setiap pembelian tiket, RM1 akan disalurkan ke tabung kemanusiaan Currency Media Prima.
Dah suami tu sakit macam ni, apa pendapatan kami memang down lah. Ada beranak pun inilah, tapi mengingat kita buat macam mana, kadang-kadang tak di Allah kan, bukan kita yang nak minta semua tu, tapi mungkin Allah nak uji kita dengan kesabaran kita macam ni. Tengok kita boleh reda ke tak ke. Tapi saya nak minta satu-satunya, siapa tak sayang suami, saya sayang suami saya sungguh. Saya sanggup buat apa saja untuk suami saya. Start dia sakit ni, saya akan semangatlah untuk sembuhkan dia. Saya akan urutkan dia bagi sembuh. Sebab saya pun duduk dengan dia dah 18 tahun dah. Saya nak suami sihat betul-betul. Saya akan bagi semangat dekat dia. Saya tak akan bagi dia down lah. Tapi adik-beradik pun semangatlah bagi dekat saya untuk bagi saya down, untuk nak buat macam mana. Dah saya tahu suami saya sakit macam tu, saya terima.
Thanks for staying with us. Some developments from the foreign front now. Iran has added 1,000 drones to its combat regiments as it vowed a quote-unquote crushing response to any U.S. attack. The Republic said its military would continue to maintain and enhance its strategic combat and response capabilities following the United States' deployment of a strike force to regional waters. On Wednesday, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi warned that Tehran's forces would respond immediately and forcefully amid rising tensions in talks with Washington over a deal on Iran's nuclear program. Meanwhile, Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, who is scheduled to meet with Araghchi on Friday, has expressed Ankara's readiness to help resolve the tensions through dialogue. In Thailand, 2 pilots on board a Royal Thai Air Force plane died after the aircraft crashed in a forested area in Chiang Mai during a training flight on Thursday. A spokesperson from the military branch said that the accident involved an AT-6 light attack aircraft. The 2-seater plane crashed in the northern Thai province at around 10:20 a.m. local time during a combat search and rescue training mission. The crash did not affect local residents or cause damage to civilian property. Authorities are investigating the cause of the crash. At least 15 people were killed after a passenger plane crashed in northern Colombia. The country's state-run airline, Satina, said its aircraft, a Beechcraft 1900, suffered a fatal accident but gave no further details. The wreckage has now been located in a mountainous area. Among those on the official passenger list were lawmaker Diogenes Quintero Amaya and congressional candidate Carlos Salcedo. On Wednesday, the plane went missing 11 minutes before its scheduled landing in Ocaña near the Venezuelan border. Now, being quadriplegic and bedridden has not stopped a man from chasing his dreams of providing for his family. 36-year-old Li Sha, who can only move one finger and one toe, runs a high-tech farm in Chongqing, China, using sensors, cameras and a computer. Lee suffers from a genetic degenerative muscle condition and relies on a ventilator to breathe. Despite this, he operates 4 greenhouses via a program he created, controlling the farm through a computer screen above him. Lee grows celery while monitoring the farm with one finger and toe that he can move, while his 62-year-old mother handles the manual labor required to tend the crops. The farm is partially automated, reducing manual work, allowing crops to be precisely controlled and ensuring strong yields. Also in China, 11 people linked to online scam centers in Myanmar were executed as Beijing toughened its crackdown on the illegal operations. The individuals executed on Thursday were sentenced to death in September by a court in Wenzhou, which also carried out the executions. Among the executed were members of the Ming family criminal group, whose activities had contributed to the deaths of 14 Chinese citizens and injuries to many others. They were convicted of homicide, illegal detention, fraud and running gambling dens. Fraud compounds have flourished in Myanmar's lawless borderlands, part of a multi-billion-dollar illicit industry. Switching to sports now, football and the Shopee ASEAN Club Championships. The return of Joao Figueiredo, Hector Herrera and John Irazabal proved seamless as Johor Darul Takzim JDTFC cruised to a 3-0 win over Shan United in their Group B match on Thursday. At the Sultan Ibrahim Stadium, JDT broke the deadlock in the 65th minute when Oscar Arribas headed home. Bergson de Silva doubled JDT's lead in the 68th minute, finishing off a move initiated by Figueiredo before completing his brace 3 minutes later. The trio, who were among the 7 national heritage players suspended for 12 months and fined by FIFA, made their first official appearance since being granted provisional measures pending the final court of arbitration for sport hearing scheduled for February 26. On to badminton and the 2026 Thailand Masters. The national camp capped off a remarkable third day after 6 representatives emerged victorious. National men's singles ace Lee Zijia continued his encouraging run after he booked his place in the quarterfinals in Bangkok on Thursday. The 2024 Paris Olympics bronze medalist fought back to beat India's world number 60, Mithun Manjunath, 11-21, 21-16, 21-12, reaching his first World Tour quarterfinal in 10 months. He now faces in-form Indonesian rising star Alwi Farhan. In the men's doubles independent pair, Nur Azrin Ayub and Tan Wee Kyong claimed their first quarterfinal spot since last year's Denmark Open. The world number 28 pair were in all sorts of trouble before eventually overcoming Taiwan's world number 57, Lai Po Yu and Sai Fu Cheng, 21-16, 22-20 in a 31-minute last 16 clash. Azrin and Wee Kyong will face young Chinese pair Hu Ke Yuan, Lin Jiangyi. Meanwhile, number 44, Chia Wei-ji and Lee Xing-hao came from behind to beat Thailand's world number 54, Piratchai Sukpun and Pakapon Thiraratsaku, 21-14, 15-21, 21-19 in 49 minutes. Wei-ji and Xing-hao will take on top seeds Leo Roli Karnando and Bagas Maulana of Indonesia for a place in the semi-finals. And that's it from us at Nightline. Before we leave, let's take a look as thousands of car enthusiasts descend on the Paris Classic Car Fair, one of the most prestigious fixtures on the global classic car calendar. With that, I'm Azaria Tagaya. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.